Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to do this granny stitch with a twist. Now this granny stitch is in a straight line. It's not staggered the way a normal granny stitch is. I've managed to get it all on top of each other and I'm going to show you how to do it. Now this is super easy. I did 37 rows of the pattern. I did 37 rows. This pattern is really easy. If you use a chunky yarn, this will grow fantastic. It will grow really quick. The pattern is so easy for anyone to do. I did 37 rows of the pattern. That includes the chain 2 row and the granny stitch row. I did 38 sets of 3, so the stitch count is 3 and I did 38 times 3 and then I added an extra 1 stitch at the end. I added a extra 1 stitch to my chain, so my blanket has turned out about 28 inches wide, 28 inches wide, and it's worked out about 29 inches long. It's turned out to be about 29 inches long, and that includes the 2-inch border. Now the border I did with a UK double crochet. That's a single crochet if you're in the USA. I've done 2 inches of the border. That's about 5 or 6 rounds, and I've gone right around. What you have to do is just remember that when you pick up the stitches for the side, the top and the bottom's relatively easy, but when you pick up the stitches from the side, make sure you count them and write it down, and then you'll make sure that you pick up that same amount of stitches up this side. There's other items with this. I've done the blanket, I've done the little jacket, the pair of trousers and the hat. So this is part 1. I'm going to show you how to do the blanket. So for this, I'm using this Sarah Ashford yarn. This is a 50 gram ball. And the blanket, I ended up using 6 50-gram balls. That's about 300 grams of yarn. Now, I got this in the UK in Home Bargains, but you can use it. This is a double knitting yarn. It's a weight 3. You can use any yarn you want. Any yarn at all. So it tells me to use a 4 crochet hook. So that's a 4mm, and that's a G if you're in the USA or another country. This is so easy, this. It's going to be so quick. You're going to do your chain in sets of 3. Any number of sets of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I've left a tail. When you do a lot of sets of stitches, you can use the tail to add stitches in. If you've got too many, pick them out. Now, not everyone will remember the stitch count. I mean, I've dropped a couple of stitches, so I'm not sure if I've got the right amount. Into the end of my chain, and I can make some extra stitches if I need any extra stitches, just like that. You can make extra stitches with your tail. If you've got too many, then just pick them out. So I'm going to add 1 extra stitch. 1 extra stitch. I'm going to work into the 2nd stitch in the chain. 1, 2. And do a UK double crochet. Now this is a single crochet if you're in the USA. It's the same stitch, we just call it something different. Pull your yarn through. You're going to chain 2, 1, 2. You're going to skip 2, 1, 2 and do a double crochet, or a single if you're in the USA. Do that all the way to the end and you'll finish on a double crochet. 1, 2, skip 2 and work a stitch. Chain 2, skip 2 and work a stitch. chain 2, skip 2 and work a stitch. Do that the whole length of your chain. So I've got 3 stitches left. I'm going to skip 2 and do a double crochet in my last stitch. And this is what you have. That's row 1 of your repeat. You've only got that row and your granny stitch row. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3 and turn your work around. Now into that same stitch there, you're going to put 2 more UK treble crochets. These are double crochets if you're in the USA. Put 2 more into that first stitch and that'll make your first granny stitch. Oh, your little granny cluster. Skip the chain space and go into this double crochet or your single if you're in the USA and do your granny stitch. 1, 2 and 3 into the same stitch. You're going to do this all the way along. This is your second row of the pattern. Now skip the chain and go in to the next double crochet and do your granny stitch. You'll do that all the way along. You're only going to be working into these double crochets here. So skip the chain and into the next stitch. Do your granny stitch. 1, 2 and 3. Work your way along. So I've got 1 chain and 1 stitch left. I'm going to do my granny cluster into that last double crochet on the end. And 3. Now you're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do that chain row again. So into the very first stitch this time, into the very first stitch of your granny stitch, do 1 double crochet. That's a single if you're in the USA. You're going to put 1 into the next stitch. You'll do this at the beginning and at the end of every row. So every time you do this chain row, you'll put 1 into the first stitch and 1 into the second. Now we're going to skip the last stitch of the granny one there and the first one here, and we're going into the middle stitch of the clusters, the middle stitch. So we're going to chain 2, skip 2 stitches and do a double crochet into that middle stitch of that cluster. Chain 2, skip 2 and go into the middle stitch. So skip that one and do your double crochet, and that's a single if you're in the USA. Chain 2 and into the middle stitch of your granny cluster. Chain 2 into the middle stitch. This is so easy. That's all you're going to repeat. And the next time when you do your granny stitch, you'll do it in that double crochet. You'll do them in the double crochets. That'll keep them all on top of each other. Chain 2, then into the middle stitch of your granny. Chain 2, into the middle stitch. Chain 2, so you are skipping 2 but you're going in. It's easier to say go into the middle stitch of that cluster. Chain 2, skip 2 and into the middle. Chain 2. Now when you're at the end, you're going to skip 2 and into these last 2 you're going to do a double crochet. So every time you do this chain row, you'll start with 2 double crochets and you'll finish with 2 double crochets. That keeps your pattern correct. So now you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So to keep a nice straight edge, you're going to put your first granny stitch in to this first stitch. You're going to skip that one. So into there, put 2 more stitches. This is going to give you a nice straight edge on your blanket. Now go straight over to that double crochet. Skip that one, but go straight over to the next one. 1, 2, and 3. This is so easy. These are the 2 rows you'll keep repeating. Straight over to the next double crochet. That's a single crochet if you're in the USA. And these are treble crochets in the UK, and in the USA they're double crochets. We just call it something different. I don't know why. So do your granny stitch into these stitches here. Skip the chain and do your granny stitch. 1 into each one. This is really quick. It's really quick crochet this, and it's a beautiful pattern. So at the end you've got your 1 stitch here and you've got your 2 at the end. So go into this one, put your granny stitch in there, and 3. You're going to skip that one and put your granny stitch into the last stitch. Put your granny stitch, and that'll keep it with a nice straight edge. Put your granny stitch in there. And that's a little pattern you get. Now we're going to repeat the chain 1 again. So chain 1 and turn. Put a UK double crochet into the first stitch and a UK double crochet into the next stitch. You'll always put your double crochet into the first and second stitch and the last 2 stitches. Chain 2 and put a double crochet into the top of that cluster. Chain 2. So you skip 2 and you'll be in the middle of your cluster. Chain 2, work your way along, skip 2 into the middle of that granny stitch. Chain 2, skip 2 and work into the middle stitch of your cluster. Skip 2. So quick, it is so quick. 1, 2 and in. You always go into the middle of your cluster. You'll be in the middle stitch. So skip 2 and in. Chain 2, skip 2 and in. Chain 2, skip 2 and in. Chain 2, skip 2 and in. Chain 2. Now at the end you're going to skip 2 and work 1 into that stitch and 1 into that stitch. So skip 2, 1 into your next stitch and 1 into the top of that chain of 3 there. So 1 into there. And I'll show you one more time your granny cluster. This is what you've got. Look how quick this grows. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and turn. Now into that same stitch, that first stitch, put 2 more to make your granny stitch. Now you're going to skip that one and go in because that sits on top of there, and as you can see it keeps a nice straight edge. So you're going to this one here above, right in the middle, and put your granny stitch in. 1, 2 and 3. Over to the next one, skip the chain into the stitch. 1, 2 and 3, and that's the 2 rows you'll keep repeating, and you'll get this beautiful pattern. You'll get this beautiful, beautiful pattern. Look at this. Now use any yarn you want. use the hook. It tells you on the label of your yarn. And that's what you'll get. Now I'll show you how I did the border. I'm going to do the border for this, and the border's really easy. I've put 2 stitches into the first stitch. I've put 2 stitches into the first stitch, and I'm using a UK double crochet. That's a single crochet if you're in the USA. And I put 1 into each stitch on the top of the fan. So we finished on a fan row, and I've worked my way along. I'm going to show you how quickly, just to put a simple border on. So 1 into each stitch. And when you get to the last stitch, into the last stitch, I'm going to put 2, 1 and 2. I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2. And I'm going to put another 2 into that same stitch. Oops, no yarn overs. So I've done 2 chain. I'm going to put another 2 into that stitch. Now I'm going to work my way down. Into the bigger spaces I'm going to put 2, and into the smaller spaces I'm just going to put 1, and we'll see what it looks like. We don't want it too tight, and we don't want it too loose. So put 1 into the smaller spaces. If I find a small space, I'm only going to put 1 in. So most of them down this side are just little small spaces. See what it looks like. So that doesn't look too bad. Work my way down. Just make sure that the amount of stitches you put down this side, you put the same amount down here. Count your stitches when you're finished and write it down, and when you come up this side, put the same amount of stitches in. And when we do the bottom, once we've done the bottom, this is the first row that we did a chain of 2. Put 2 in, then 1, then 2 into that chain and 1, 2 into there and then 1, and work your way around. That's the bottom. But for the sides, you just need to put them in nice and even. It seems to be working out okay with 1 in each space. So 1 double crochet in each space. That's a single crochet if you're in the USA. If you get any spaces that look a little big, you can put an extra one in. As long as you count them when you're finished, and make sure you do the same going up the other side. Now I'm going to do that, and when I get to the bottom at the corner, I'm going to put 2 stitches, 2 chain and 2 stitches into the corner, and then work my way along. And remember, the bottom's got these chains of 2, so you'll put 2 stitches in, and then 1 into there, then 2 into that chain space and 1 into there. And you should have the same number of stitches on the bottom as you did on the top, or once we find the top. And you can do as many rounds on this as you want. Do as many rounds as you want. So I'm going to do maybe 6 rounds. I want at least about a 2 inch band on this, a little border of about 2 inches all the way around, and then I'll come back and show you the finished blanket. So I finished my border. I did 5 rounds. This is really pretty. I did 5 rounds of a UK double crochet. That's a single crochet if you're in the USA. I did about 2 inches of border. You can do more. You can do more border if you want. And this is what this little blanket looks like. Now that's all I had left from a 50-gram ball doing the border. I used about 50 grams to do the border. But it is such a beautiful pattern, and it is so easy. Give it a try. Do it in any yarn you want. Use the hook size it says on your label. You can do this as big as you want it to be. Do it as big as you want or as small as you want. It's up to you. In sets of 3, and then add 1 extra stitch. But you can make this blanket any size you want. It doesn't have to be for a baby. You can make it any size you want. So thank you very much for watching. A big thank you to all the people who've been donating to help my channel on my Ko-fi page, and the link is underneath the video. So please subscribe to the channel. And if you click on the bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. And it's completely free to subscribe to the channel. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.